All right, good morning. Good to see you all. Thank you all for coming today. I really appreciate all your patience and understanding as we are trying to navigate this weird in-between period between not having had church for 3 months and having church again, but with very few volunteers and how it goes. So thank you for your patience, and we're going to get through it all. It's a crazy year. Maybe the whole year will be like this. Who knows? Hope not. So as you may have seen last week or from the email, we are doing a series on inspirations from the Mother of Peace memoirs called Be Not Conformed. And this is the book called Mother of Peace. It's our co-founder, Dr. Hak Jahan Moon's memoirs about her life and her experiences, and lots of great nuggets of wisdom in there. And we thought it would be really wonderful to be able to share some inspirations from the book. So today I'm going to be doing that. Now, I had kind of an interesting experience. I'm reading the book, and I'm reading, and I'm reading, and I'm reading, and I'm really struggling because I'm finding it a challenge to find things that I feel really touched by. I mean, there's a lot of great content in the book, but I'm reading, I'm asking God, what should I talk about this Sunday? What aspect of this book should I take? And then I read this one part about a third of the way through the book, and it really kind of struck me, and I wanted to share that with you, just a couple paragraphs. When I departed Korea for this speaking tour, I had several outfits, a collection suitable for the variety of climates I would encounter. When I returned, all I had was the suit I was wearing. I always gave away my clothes, and I had been gone for most of the year. When my husband welcomed me, his first words were, "You did a good job." Then, glancing at my hands, out of the blue, he asked, "By the way, where is your wedding ring?" I looked at my hand. Only then did I remember it was gone. "I don't have the ring," I said. "I must have given it to someone." "To whom did you give it?" he asked, incredulous. All right. "Ah, yes, I gave it to someone during the tour," I said, "but I don't remember who it was. I gave it to someone either to keep as an heirloom or, if necessary, to sell for her family's well-being." My husband made the natural comment, "It's fine that you gave it away, but you don't remember who you gave it to?" We really don't focus so much on personal possessions, and that is how we've always been. As we looked into each other's eyes, my husband's gratitude for that quality in me surfaced. He collected himself, smiled, and nodded, and the welcoming celebration proceeded. My husband and I could not have a honeymoon. I didn't mind, but he has always felt remorseful. When we visited the Netherlands during a speaking tour, it must have been 1969, after much thought, he bought me a small diamond ring with some money he had saved. That was the meaning of that ring, but now I had given it to someone and had even forgotten that I had done so. I do give things away out of sympathetic love, and then I let it go. Those who give what they have, give their heart, and even their life, and do not cling to the memory, are the ones whom God visits. My husband knows I am like that, and he is too. Just as I had done, he let it go. So, yeah, I was really moved when I read that. And I actually didn't really know why I felt moved or inspired by that story. Obviously, it's a beautiful sentiment. It's a beautiful story, beautiful concept of generosity and of giving. And I think that, there's definitely a certain beauty and goodness when we give, when we have a lot to give. It's not bad, of course, but somehow there's like a deeper sense of beauty or deeper sense of inspiration that comes of stories where people give just what they have, even something that's important to you or something that's meaningful for you, but you just give it anyway because you just feel the desire to, you see the need for it. I think that most of us recognize that it's good to be generous, right? I think that's like something we've all grown up hearing. It's good to give, better to give than to receive. It's good to be generous, all these things. But actually, I think that for a lot of us, if we are honest with ourselves, actually brings up a lot of painful memories or feelings within us of maybe having given too much, or maybe regret of having given something that wasn't received or wasn't returned or wasn't appreciated, or maybe it's experiences of childhood. I think many people have experiences of childhood where they don't really feel like the giving was something that they really appreciated. Maybe you come from a family, or people who come from a family that didn't have much, and so it was really hard just to make ends meet, just to put food on the table. Maybe in the case of a lot of religious families, a lot of families, not just in our church, but all around the world, people will often give to the church or give to the religious causes or the campaigns. Even going into debt to be able to give what's asked or needed. Or maybe money was the cause or source of arguments or fighting or contention in your family. These are real challenges that I think we as human beings have to face and to deal with in our lives. And I think that for myself, now that I'm an adult and now that I'm a father, I've actually had to come to terms with a lot of this stuff. I think that when you become a parent, you understand the desire of the parent to give without counting what you gave or without expecting something in return. And if you have something greater to give, then you just want to give it. It's not a calculation, it's not an obligation, it's not something that we do because that's what we're supposed to do as parents. It's just something that we wish to do. It's something we want to do. I think that there's something very deep and something very powerful there that comes directly to us from the heart of God. Because God is that way. God doesn't hold us accountable for what he's given to us and said, well, I gave you this and I gave you that and you owe me. God doesn't do that. Even if we do that to ourselves or we do that to others, that's not God's desire and that's not God's heart. There's something about this unconditional desire to just give and give and give and not really even remember that you gave, not even really, remember who you gave it to in the case of the story. That comes from God, I believe, comes directly from the heart of God. I think looking back on my own life, there are, and I think all of us can probably say the same thing, there are always things that we can complain about and wish things could have been better. But one thing that I can say when I look at, my parents and my family is, and even to this day, the heart to always keep giving. Even sometimes if you feel kind of empty, or even sometimes if you don't feel the inspiration, but to just keep giving anyway is really amazing. And I've kind of come to realize that there's a lot worse things than not having money in this world. There's a lot worse things than not having maybe that toy that you want or that thing that you would like to have. But of course, generosity money is like one thing, right? Money represents a lot of things that are important to us, but generosity is really about much more than money. Generosity is also about sitting and listening to somebody with your entire being, just being there to listen to them, not listening them to formulate the argument of the thing that you're going to say next, not listening to them with their words going in one ear and going out the other ear, but actually giving to the other person by being there for them and by receiving what they have on their heart and need to say. Even maybe you have something on your heart that you want to say. I think this is a very tangible aspect of giving and receiving. It's also about giving your time and about giving your attention. Have you ever listened and just sat and listened to somebody for hours and felt completely exhausted? Isn't that an interesting phenomenon? You're literally just sitting and listening, and you feel exhausted, just completely, but not tired, but a mental or emotional exhaustion, right? It's an actual gift, or maybe not gift, but you're actually giving them something. Maybe it's not tangible, but it's something. It's something there. Generosity is also about helping others to achieve maybe something you've achieved in your life. Maybe you've achieved something that you feel is meaningful or valuable, and there's somebody else who is struggling to achieve that thing, or you want to see them achieve something like that. Then you offer your experience, you offer your support. And that's generosity. I think generosity is also about seeking God's guidance instead of demanding or insisting on my own way. Generosity and pride kind of get caught up in one another many times. Many times, in order to be generous with others, we have to give up a certain degree of pride. We have to give up a certain degree of, I want to do things my way. Sometimes we don't really want God to interfere with my life and the things that I would like to see happen. So sometimes we have to be generous with God and be like, God, I know you have my best interest in mind. Please guide me. I'm willing to let go if I need to. Generosity is also forgiving. Holding on to our resentment towards others or to God or to something is sometimes we can feel justified by that, but it hurts us and it hurts others. So generosity is also letting go. Generosity is also forgiving. And generosity is universal, and if we practice it in one area of my life, then it can come to fruition in other areas of our life as well. So I was reminded when I was reading that section of the Memoirs about a very, maybe kind of a similar section of the Bible, and it's from Mark 12:21. It's the story of the widow and the mites. But basically, you've probably heard this story about the old widow who gives like a tiny amount of money compared to all these other people. But Jesus looks at her and he says, well, anyway, I just read this. He said, he sat down opposite the treasury and observed how the crowd put money into the treasury. Many rich people put in large sums. A poor widow also came and put in 2 small coins worth a few cents. Calling his disciples to himself, he said to them, Amen, I say to you, this poor widow put in more than all the other contributors to the treasury, for they have all contributed from their surplus wealth, but she from her poverty has contributed all she had, her whole livelihood. So I think that the point here is not the amount of money. I think sometimes people look at this and say, the wealthy are wretched or something like that. I mean, that's just crazy. That's ridiculous. Like, if Jesus put down people who were wealthy, he would put them down because they would display it in front of everyone and say, oh, look how great I am because I have so much money and I'm giving so much money to the church. I'm such a great person. Jesus hated that kind of thing. But I think that the point that he was trying to make here was that this lady gave her whole self. She gave what she could. And there's something very special and precious about that. So in our own lives, I think that we can often feel tempted, especially in times of stress, especially in times of like turmoil, like kind of like what's happening in the world now. many people losing their jobs, many people feeling insecure about what the future of the world is going to look like, we kind of have a tendency to turn in on ourselves. We have a tendency to try to seek safety. And I think that to some degree that's kind of natural because, we have to preserve our well-being, right? But at the same time, I think it's important that we also ask ourselves, how am I living my life? Because there's always, this is a crazy world we live in. There's always crazy stuff happening. And I know that for myself, I've often felt tempted to just run away. My in-laws have a beautiful house in the countryside in Missouri, and there's no cell phone reception. There's no, there's no paved road. Gravel. It's kind of paved, right? I guess. It's a very safe place to be in a lot of ways because no one's going to bother you there. And I've many times felt tempted, especially with all the craziness that's been happening in the world, I would really like to just run away and just hide over there for a year or two and just kind of wait for everything to calm down in the world. But I also realize that the thing that gives me fulfillment in life and the thing that makes me happy is when I find a place in my life where I can give and serve and fulfill the needs of others. And that would make it very limited for me to be able to do that, although it would be nice. I think sometimes we have to look at ourselves and we have to ask, how am I living? Am I giving what I can? I think sometimes we don't want to give because life is hard or because there's a risk or there's a vulnerability there. But when we find an opportunity to be able to give of ourselves, whether it's our time, whether it's our expertise, whether it's our money, whether it's our attention, then we need to look for those opportunities. We need to find what it is within us that's holding us back from doing those things. Because it's on the other side of that decision, it's on the other side of that commitment to do those things where we find happiness, where we find fulfillment. God designed us that way. God designed us to find fulfillment through living for a greater purpose. God designed us to find fulfillment through serving and caring for others. And that's just the way it is. We can't do anything we could say, oh God, I wish you didn't design me for that, But that's the way God designed us. Any other path, any other direction eventually leads to varying degrees of emptiness and not finding fulfillment in our life. So even in these crazy times, I encourage us all, myself included, to seek for a way that we can get out of ourselves. Where's an area where I can be of help and service to somebody? Where's an area where I can give? Where's an area where I can love? Where's an area where I can give of what I have? I think another reason why I really like this part of the memoirs is that it really made me think of my wife. And I think many of you who know her well can attest that, she's a person like that. She's a person who likes to give what she has. I've always felt really grateful that Adonia is not like a person who has lots of things that she needs. She doesn't need to have the expensive diamond ring. She doesn't need to have the fancy. It's so funny. This year, we had some extra money in our play account, so we divide our income into different accounts for different purposes. We had some extra money in there. Somebody gave us some money when I went to a conference, and she was like, "Oh, I would really like to buy some seeds for the garden," and I was like, "Wow, that's so cool." It's like, maybe somebody else might want some fancy jewelry or something like that, or a vacation, but she just wanted to be able to grow the garden. And now the garden looks beautiful, so it's really wonderful. But I think that, it's really easy, especially when we're kind of caught up in the religious life, we get into this mindset that we know we need to give, we know we need to serve the world, and we know God's situation, we know we need to serve God and heal God's pain, but sometimes we just really get caught up in the obligation and the duty of it, like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I'm a bad person if I'm not doing this, or if I'm not doing that, or if I'm not doing more for all the causes or all the issues that exist in the world. I think that, that's kind of every person's individual journey, to try to find a sincere motivation, to not do it out of duty, to not do it out of obligation, because that doesn't really work at the end. But to find maybe a genuine thing that you really care about and invest into that. But I think I can tell you that all people love to be around those who are generous, those who are looking to give, those who are caring for others. All people want to be around those people, and I think God likes to be around those kind of people as well. So our journey, part of our journey in life, is trying to discover, how can I become that kind of a person? And I think that if we work on that, then we discover that actually becoming that kind of a person means becoming more like God and embodying God's love and character and natural design for us in our own lives. So that's basically my message for today. I just want to encourage us all. Maybe something popped up into your mind, some area of your life that you feel maybe has been challenging in this area, some area of your life that maybe have some unresolved frustrations from your family or from your childhood or something like that. And I really encourage us all to seek to find peace with those experiences and find more fulfillment in our lives. Please join me in prayer. Good morning, Heavenly Parent. Thank you so much for every single person here, and so grateful to be able to gather together as a family, even though it's strange times and we can't all be here at this time. We ask and pray for your guidance for our community. We ask and pray for your guidance in our lives. Please help us to overcome the hurdles and the challenges that we experience in our lives, so that we can become people who really resemble your character and love for this world. We're seeing now so many challenging things happening in the world, and it's a very interesting time. We are maybe tempted to hide, Heavenly Parent, but I pray that we can be your spokespeople, Heavenly Parent. We can be your hands and feet for this world. There's many people who are hurting so much and suffering in so many different ways. And many people who actually are desperately seeking to find you on a deeper level and to understand you, and are struggling to find that in this world. I really pray that we can reach those people, that we can love those people, and that we can also look deep within ourselves as well and see how we can love our families better, how we can love our brothers and sisters in our community better. And I thank you, Heavenly Parent, for never giving up on this world, never giving up on us. We know that at the end of the day, everything will be okay. And we are hopeful as a community for a better world. We know that from the beginning you have set your heart on this perfect world that you have envisioned from the beginning, and you're never going to give up on it, and you're never going to give up on any single one of us, Heavenly Parent. Let's work together. Let's work together to grow ourselves and to build our community in this world. And I offer this prayer in my name, Michael Adonia Hendrick, a blessed central family. Amen. And Aju. Thank you so much.